Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I, of course, am just another heavy metal maniac, and today I'm going to be doing another response video. So this is going to be a response to the Thralls of Metal, who a few days ago posted a video all about bands whose debut is arguably their best album. Great video, go watch it if you haven't. I think they make some really good points. Some choices I agree with, some choices I don't agree with. So yeah, I'm doing a response to that. I gathered 10 bands of my own who I feel their debut is their best album. Today, we're going to be listening to Walls of Jericho by Helloween. A very excellent debut album. Not my favorite Helloween album, so they're not going to be included in this list, but still, obviously, a very good album. One of the best debut metal albums of all time. Great album. Anyways, without further ado, enough of my ramblings. Let's just start off with my first pick. So I talked about this band in a ranking I did very recently. My first pick is Godflesh with their 1989 debut, Street Cleaner. I don't think I'm going to get much debate on this one. I think by general consensus, Street Cleaner is regarded as Godflesh's best album, and it really isn't hard to see why. For one, it is one of the most influential metal albums to come out of the late 80s. It's in terms of industrial metal and post-metal, even kind of sludge and drone metal, you could argue. It was a hugely influential album, and to me it is kind of the perfect album that embodies everything great about Godflesh's sound. It's very dark, it's grimy, it's noisy, it's very minimalistic, and yeah, I love it. It's one of my all-time favorite albums. I think it's a masterpiece in my eyes, frankly, and I do really love it. Yep, and again, I don't think I'm going to get much flack for this one, because Street Cleaner is, I think, by far and away considered to be Godflesh's best album. So yeah, that's my first pick, Godflesh with Street Cleaner. Alright, my second pick, I don't know if this might be a bit more divisive, I'm not really sure. But my second pick is Necrophobic with their 1993 debut, The Nocturnal Silence. Now, I do really enjoy Necrophobic. They are a consistently awesome black metal band. Most people say they're like a blackened death metal band, but I feel like a lot of times they lean closer to just straightforward black metal than blackened death metal. But yeah, they're very consistent. They're just releasing a bunch of their last album that came out this year I thought was really good. And yeah, they really are just putting out consistently great albums, but I still feel like the best Necrophobic album is their 1993 debut, Nocturnal Silence. It's kind of a perfect blend of black metal and death metal. It's it has the blast beats and it has the tremolo riffs, but it also has flat out death metal riffs. It's got lots of great groove. It's still very atmospheric, like you would expect from black metal. And this was at a time when blackened death metal was still kind of very much sort of in its infancy. Behemoth at this point was still kind of just doing the whole black metal thing. And Belphegor, their debut didn't come out until 2 or 3 years after 1993. Blackened death metal was still very much a genre that was in its infancy, and I think this album was an absolutely landmark release in that. It was very influential to not only just blackened death metal. I imagine a lot of black metal bands were probably influenced by it as well, just a lot of straightforward death metal bands as well. And yeah, Necrophobic, while I do think they have some really great albums after this, like Blood Hymns and stuff like that, I think Nocturnal Silence is still their best album. It's still my favorite album. So that's my second pick, Necrophobic, The Nocturnal Silence. Alright, this next pick might be a little bit more divisive because I feel like everyone has kind of a different opinion on what is this band's best album, but my opinion is pretty cemented. My third pick is Dismember with their debut, Like an Ever-Flowing Stream. Yeah, this is just a masterpiece of Swedish death metal. To me, it just perfectly encaptures everything glorious about Swedish death metal. You have that disgusting HM2 buzzsaw sound. It's fast, it's aggressive, it's partially melodic in parts, it's not full-blown melodeath, but there's melodic elements in it, and melodic albums that they would embrace on later albums. I do love later Dismember albums. I do really love, I love Indecent and Obscene. I love, Hate Campaign. I love, Dismember are probably my favorite Swedish death metal band, just because they are the most consistent out of, like, kind of, you know, they're much more consistent than, say, Dismember, or, sorry, Entombed, or Grave, or Unleashed, and, you know, they're just consistently awesome, heavy, gnarly, ugly death metal. And I still feel like their debut, which came out in '91, is their best album. So many great songs, like Override the Overture is a great opener. You have Skinner Alive. You have like Bleed for Me. You know, there's so many great songs, and still so many bands are like chasing the sound that like Left Hand Path and like An Ever Flowing Stream are the two albums that really kickstarted Swedish death metal. And so many bands to this day are chasing the two sounds that those albums perfected. So yeah, that's my third pick, Dismember, Like an Ever Flowing Stream. Alright, number 4, this is a Canadian band. A Canadian death metal band, and it's Gorges. And I think their 1991 debut, Considered Dead, is still their best album. Considered Dead is just it's a killer, you know, death metal release. It's got, you know, just chunky, heavy riffs. The production on it is pretty damn good, I think, even by today's standards. For 1991, it's a really good sounding album. The guitar tone is fat and meaty, and, you know, again, there's just so many great songs on it, like Disincarnated, Stiff and Cold. Yeah, and it's just an awesome album. Erosion of Sanity, I don't like it as much as Considered Dead, but Erosion of Sanity is really good too. But then Obscura came out, and I don't like that album at all. I know a lot of people really, really love that album. A lot of people say it's Gorges' best album, which I feel like is kind of insane, but, you know, everyone's entitled to their opinion, obviously. But, man, Obscura, I've tried to like that album. It's just, I can't. It's too much. It's just kind of too much. It's just noodly, kind of. The production's not that great. The vocals have some pretty rough spots. And besides, I think they did better at tech metal later. Like, I feel like From Wisdom to Hate was actually really good, and Colored Sands is pretty good as well. But yeah, I don't think Gorges are ever going to top their debut, Considered Dead. I think Considered Dead is just an awesome album. I really, really love it. It's just killer, gnarly, heavy, old school death metal. This is my 4th pick, Gorges, Considered Dead. Alright, my number 5 pick, so this is a band that kind of has a very interesting evolution over the years, and but I still think their debut album is still my favorite album by them. It's Amorphus with the Corellian Isthmus. Yeah, this is Amorphous at their rawest, at their ugliest, definitely at their heaviest. This is just pure, you know, heavy, gnarly, old school death doom. It's got, you know, just chunky, fat riffs. And yeah, it's just very, very heavy. It really isn't anything like later Amorphous albums in a lot of ways, because Tales from the Thousand Leagues was still kind of death doomy, but I feel like they embraced a lot more melodic death metal on that album. It's kind of more melodic death doom, and then after that they would kind of go off into later kind of like prog metal, melodic death metal, folk elements. But I mean, I do really like later Amorphous. I think later Amorphous is really, really good. Like, especially their last few albums I thought have been really good. But their debut is still my favorite, just because it's like the style that I like the most. Like, I like this style of just, you know, old school early 90s death doom. You know, it's got just, again, great riffs. It's very heavy. Great songs like The Pilgrimage, Misery Path. There's the cover at the end of Vulgar Necrophobic, something like that. It's a cover of another old school Swedish death metal band that I can't remember the name of currently, but that's a great song as well. Love that cover. Yeah, so that's my number 5 pick, Amorphous, the Corellian Isthmus. Alright, my number 6 pick, I might catch a little bit of flack for this, I don't know. This is a very beloved album, but I don't know if by general consensus this is considered this band's best album. But for me, this is still my favorite album by them by far. My number 6 pick is Bathory with their self-titled album. This is like the first black metal album I ever listened to in full, so yeah, there's kind of the nostalgic factor there, I guess, and this is kind of the album that really got me into black metal. But yeah, again, one of the most influential metal albums of all time. I consider the self-titled Bathory album to be like the first first true black metal album in a lot of ways. Like, you had other, first wave black metal bands, obviously. You have Celtic Frost, you have, like, Sabbat or, like, Sarcophago and stuff. That kind of got lumped in with the first wave black metal movement, but to me, the Bathory's first album is the first true black metal album. It's still thrashy in parts, but it's just different. It's very dark, very evil, very sinister, very kind of lo-fi, tremolo riffs for days. And yeah, I absolutely love a lot of songs on here, like Hades, Reaper, Necromancy, and Armageddon. It's just a really, really killer album. The albums that came out after it are also really good too. Like, I really do love The Return and Under the Sign of the Black Mark. Bloodfire Death is also really, really good too. That's probably my second favorite. But after that, honestly, I really don't get into anything else Bathory released when they kind of became more of a folk, like a Viking metal band, just with, a lot of clean singing, not really black metal, like everything Hammerheart onwards, I just don't really like, and Octagon is just, like, flat out terrible, but yeah, I think Bathory's self-titled is still their best album. I still love that album. I jam it semi-frequently, so yeah, gets in the rotation fairly often for me. So yeah, that's my number 6 pick, Bathory's Bathory's debut, their self-titled album. All right, let's talk about some classic metal now, some new wave of British heavy metal stuff. This is the oldest album on this list. Going back to 1980, we're going to talk about Angel Witch with their self-titled debut. Yeah, this is, one of the most important albums in the new wave of British heavy metal. This is a hugely influential album in that whole, little thing. This is, like, up there with, like, Iron Maiden's debut in terms of just how important it was. And, I mean, yeah, for one, it's just a great album. It is just that triumphant, amazing, classic heavy metal sound. If it wasn't for, like, Iron Maiden, I mean, out of that year in 1980, this is probably my favorite 1980 new Wabam album, but if it wasn't for Iron Maiden, existing, this might be my favorite new Wabam album in general. But yeah, no, I love their debut. Their later stuff is good, in my opinion, but, it's, kind of more hit and miss. Again, it's good, but I just don't think they've even come really close to topping this debut album. And yeah, I really love Angel Witch's debut. Again, it's just an incredible, just amazing album, and I don't think they're ever going to top it at this point. I believe they're still active. Their last album came out a few years ago, but yeah, no, they've never even really come close to topping it. Again, they're releasing good albums, but nothing on par with their debut, so that's my number 7 pick, Angel Witch with the self-titled album. Alright, next up, this is an album that I really love. I named my channel after this album, and it's also the song that plays in the intro that I made, and I'm going to start putting in my videos now. Of course, I'm talking about Exciter with their 1983 debut, Heavy Metal Maniac. Yep, like I said, I love this album. I could name my channel after this album. This is my intro music. The title track is the intro song, and yeah, I do love this album. Like, again, just absolutely classic. Like, this is kind of the speed metal album in a way. Like, if someone asked me, hey, what does speed metal sound like? What is it? Show me an album. I'd be like, here, go jam Heavy Metal Maniac. So many great songs. Stand Up and Fight. The title track, again, absolutely incredible. Yep. And yeah, the albums that came out after Heavy Metal Maniac are good as well, in my opinion. Like the few albums that came out after, like Rising Force and stuff, or was it Rising Force? I can't remember the name. Oh yeah, the few albums that came out after that are good. After like the first 5 albums, probably, things start to get a little bit more questionable. But yeah, to me, they really kind of just perfected the formula. They really knocked it out of the park with this debut album. They haven't been able to top it since, in my opinion. That's not to say again, with these bands, I'm not saying like the debuts are the only good album, because with a lot of these bands, I think all the albums are good. But it's just, these bands just never were able to top their debut. And Exciter, Heavy Metal Maniac, some people say it's the first thrash metal album, which I debatable. I don't really consider it to be thrash metal. I consider it to be more just a speed metal album, but I do still really love it. Not quite in my top 50 favorite albums of all time, but it would definitely be in my top 100, that's for sure. So yeah, it's my number 8 pick, Exciter, Heavy Metal Maniac. Alright, let's get into some Doom now. Alright, this next band, I do really adore this band, and their sophomore is really close to being my favorite, but I give the slight edge to their debut. It's Trouble, and I'm going to talk about their album Trouble, or as most people would know it, Psalm 9, because they released another self-titled album later. I don't know. It's weird when bands do that, when they have like more than one self-titled release. But yeah, Trouble, Psalm 9, this is an absolute classic in the doom metal genre. This is one of the most influential doom metal albums, and I think this is still one of the very best doom metal albums of all time. I absolutely adore this album. I adore every song on it. Assassin, Victim of the Insane, The Fall of Lucifer, Bastards Will Pay, Revelation, Life or Death. Again, I just love every song off of it. I jam this album all the time. Again, their sophomore album, The Skull, is very close, but I give the slight edge to the debut. Like, man, again, it's just an incredible album. And again, I like pretty much every Trouble album. All the albums I think are at the very least like pretty good. But they just really came out of the gate swinging hard. Psalm 9 is just a masterpiece in my opinion, and that's not a word I want to use lightly, because but I don't know, it is a masterpiece in my opinion. I like everything about it. The songs are incredible. Eric Wagner's vocals, rest in peace, he was a fucking amazing vocalist. And yeah, just again, production for 1984 is also like not bad at all. It's an incredible album, and again, they have a lot of killer albums, but nothing is gonna quite top this debut in my opinion. So that's my number 9 pick, Trouble with Psalm 9. Alright, now my final pick is another doom band, but this is a Swedish doom band. My final pick for today is Count Raven with their debut Storm Warning. Count Raven, you know, again, just a killer old school doom metal band. Just heavy, chunky riffs, and I think their 1990 debut, Storm Warning, is still their best album. I really love this album. This is one of my favorite doom metal albums. It's got just so many killer songs on it, like, you know, True Revelation and In the Name of Rock and Roll. I think it's also this band's best vocal performance. Christian, I forget his last name, but I looked it up like not that long ago, and I've already immediately forgotten it. It doesn't show you how much my brain holds information, like a sifter holds sand. But yeah, the Christian, I think he gave the best vocal performance this band ever had, and he left after this album, and they got a different vocalist who he's good, but I don't think he's necessarily as good. And you know, the Christian would go on to sing for Lord Vicar, another great doom band, and he would also do Children of Doom with Saint Vitus. But anyways, getting off topic. And yeah, the production is pretty damn good. It's very heavy. The guitar tone is just fat and gnarly. And again, it's just a really killer album. They have I think all of Count Raven's albums are good, but I still think their debut, it's my personal favorite. I still think it's their best work. And yeah, that's my final pick for today, Count Raven with Storm Warning. And well, yeah, that about does it. Those were 10 bands who I think their debut is their best album. This might be a controversial list of mine. I don't really know. I mean, other than Godflesh, I think, and Angel, which probably there's maybe going to be a lot of debate as to what are these bands' best albums. So yeah, that about does it. If you made it to the end of this video, you're awesome, and I appreciate you. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like. Leave a comment down below. What do you think about these albums? Do you think these bands peaked on their debut? Do you think they did better? Leave a comment down below. What do you think about this video? Give me feedback. I want feedback. I want to know. Subscribe, because I do have more content coming your way. And yeah, that's going to about wrap it up. I have been just another Heavy Metal Maniac, of course. I'll see you all sometime in the future. In the meantime, all of you, take care, have a great day, and bye-bye.